don't know. He's been hiding out.
Yeah, I'm here.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Let's see. Gabriella, are you able, would you be able to read that, or are you in, have a good enough?
Um,
uh,
yes, can it be any bigger at all? I think I can read it. Let me see if I can make this any bigger. Can you make it any bigger?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good, J Baba. The late night chat, Sunday, July 21st, topic grief and loss. Dear folks of Baba.
Started and they're reading the letter, the email right now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy.
You're welcome, honey. Talk to you afterwards. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dear folks of Baba, so many in this country devoted to Baba are from the baby boomer generation born in the 1940s and 50s, and so most have suffered the poignant loss of their parents. And now many of their contemporaries are passing on. The younger generations, as well as the baby boomers, have also lost near and dear ones through divorce, the breakup of close friendships, and have even been left heartbroken in romance and by family. Also, there are close friends who have had to move away and are never seen again. These are heart-rending events, even if they are expected, and how we deal with them is critical to our well-being and inner life. There are few ways to speed up the short-term process of grief. There is usually an inevitable minimum length of time to make the inner adjustment. What can be critical excuse me, could you move it down? Yeah. What can be critical spiritually is how we deal with the long-term effects so that there is not a sense of irredeemable loss. What Baba has said about death is immensely helpful. And fortunately, he often awakens in us the knowing that our near and dear ones are not forever gone, but they are right here and have not gone anywhere. They are still present, but they are invisible. In the late 1930s, when one of Baba's circle of close followers in England passed on at an early age, he said of her, "She is still here. Where else can she go? Only you do not see her, for being without her coat and hat, you do not recognize her." It is unacceptable to our soul that someone is gone forever, that they are no longer here. And to believe this is to plunge ourselves into the deepest grief. The heart cannot accept this. There is a hospice saying, grief is love that has no place to go. The object of our love is no longer physically here. And so for most people, their love is painfully backed up. And that is experienced as grief. But if we think that our close ones are still here, although invisible, as Baba says, there is a place our love can flow to. Our relationship can continue, although in a different form than when our dear one was physically here. This is a most loving consolation that Baba has built into our inner experience. And the love we send to the departed ones or those who may have rejected us or who have moved away is received by them and responded to in kind. The relationship needn't stop with death at all or when they are physically distant. And Baba gives us the assurance that we will meet again and continued a sharing of love. Mara, who suffered the greatest loss when Baba dropped his body, eventually found him with her most intimately, eventually found him with her most intimately after she passed through her initial period of unimaginable grief. How have you dealt with the death of a close one? What have you done when someone has rejected your love or disowned you? How have you involved Baba in this painful adjustment, and how do you feel now? Has the grief and loss and heartbreak brought you to a deeper place within and to a more mature love and closer to Baba? I couldn't resist quoting this Rumi poem on death. On the day I die, when I'm being carried toward the grave, do not weep. Don't say, he's gone, he's gone. Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun and moon set, but will they not come up in brightness tomorrow? The grave is merely a veil over reunion in paradise. The human seed goes into the ground like a bucket into the well, where Joseph's spirit dwells. It grows and comes up, full of some unimagined beauty. When your mouth closes on this side, it opens on that side with a shout of triumph that echoes in the placeless air. With help from friends and his love, Jeff. P.S. The following 2 Sundays, we will take a break.
Thank you, Gabriella.
Yeah.
You know, this topic came from a woman in England who she watches she
That's okay.
watches the
Take it with us.
recordings, but of course that's in the middle of the night in
Don's
England.
gonna open mine. I'm gonna drink yours.
Someone's
Leave
there.
mine.
And so, yeah, so I decided this would be a good topic, and I hope you feel free. At some point, I'll share my experience. But anybody feel like starting out? You know, it's a beautiful line from Mother Teresa, where she says, "Dear Lord, break my heart so completely that the whole world falls in." Who says things like that? You know. But I was wondering about those boxes behind Tony Paternitti. I mean, he's probably
What?
down in
I
Mar-a-Lago
didn't get
with
the last word.
What's
the
that?
whole world falls in.
Yeah. Break my heart so completely that the whole world falls in.
Jeff,
Thank you.
a quick housekeeping. Are you sure it's the next 2 Sundays? I think next Sunday you're here.
Yeah, I know. I goofed up on that.
Okay. But
I better
don't believe
change.
what your eyes see in writing.
Yeah. Good. I goofed up. Okay. Does anybody feel like venturing forth? I know Ronnie is very pregnant, you know, but we don't get to see that watermelon that she ingested last night.
Hey Jeff, I
Yeah.
am very, very pregnant. And I do have a watermelon as a belly right now.
Yeah. I did see a picture of you today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. From Jack, your brother. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
So,
I mean, I can start us off if we want.
okay, go ahead, Ronnie. Yeah.
Yeah, I was super intrigued to join tonight because and many of you probably already know if you had the opportunity to meet my dad, who passed a bit over a year ago. And yeah, that has just been such a completely transformational experience for me, and definitely my siblings and my mom. And I think, you know, for anybody who really loved him, it's like, I think it really broke people's hearts open for a little bit. But especially for his children, or for me, I think that quote that you just shared was like, like break my heart open so that the world falls in. That kind of makes it like, that's kind of how it felt for me when that happened. But I'd say that ultimately it's been like the greatest experience of my life as well, to have gone through such an incredible loss like that. I think it's like completely transformed my ability to love others. It shattered a lot of the like ideas and things that I valued in life, but in a way that is much, that allows me to love others in the world much more. And you know, a lot of things that I think I maybe held on to that were very much more of the material world. I don't identify with those things as much. And a lot of that has been like identity, or like political affiliation, or the isms, basically. Like, I think that's something that I like was deeply identified with. And I feel like it has allowed me to live so much more in a place of union with others. Yeah, because I don't know, it, like I don't really know how to describe it, and maybe I'm just rambling now. But yeah, it's something that especially actually in the last couple of weeks, being very pregnant, I've thought about him a lot, and I've been feeling that loss deeply. But it's not, and since he died, it's never been in this way where like I'm mad, or like I want him to be here. Like, I completely accept that he's passed, and I have no expectation or desire for him to be here. It's more just this like expression of like of love and gratitude and reverence of him, and like, yeah, just that yeah, it's just a beautiful thing to love someone like that. And I think when they pass, you really experience that. And or at least that's how that was my experience with my dad. And like, I loved him so much when he was here. But I didn't have like the comfort, like that's just not how we like related to each other. It wasn't through like words or like physical affection necessarily. It was like, I just knew that we loved each other. And yeah, I think that's what I'll say for now. But
Beautiful. Yeah.
thanks for letting me
No,
share.
he was so lovable, and every one of his kids got brainwashed into Baba.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 5
Yeah.
kids, or is it 6? I can't remember.
So he raised like 9 children.
9
But
children.
yeah,
Yeah.
he had 6 children with my mom,
Yeah.
and he was, you know, the primary father figure for my mother's 2 children from her previous marriage. And he had a son from his previous marriage as well.
Yeah. No,
Can I ask you a
beautiful.
question? Can I ask you a question? First of
Yeah,
all,
absolutely.
hi, I'm Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Thank you for your authentic sharing. You said something so interesting, that you wouldn't ask for him to be here.
Mm,
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
mm.
Is that an acceptance that he's with Baba, or can
Yeah,
you
yeah, it's
unpack
just
that a bit more?
yeah, it's an acceptance that like his time in the form of Tony Foley in the role of my dad ended. And I, you know, it's also an acceptance that like I do feel him here invisibly with me, and I don't have like a verbal, or like I don't have like a communication like route with him where he tells me things, or like I experience it that way. But I guess Baba prepares us so well, if we allow it to accept death as like as not the end at all, and that that it's a blessing. He's moving forward and he's moving on. And yeah, does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and you're being incredibly selfless here, because
Yeah.
usually when people leave, we feel what we are going to miss,
Yeah.
and that you are just so involved in his highest good is just
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. And you know, and maybe even that child that you're bearing right now could be Tony coming back. It's not
Yeah.
impossible.
I've thought about that. I've thought about that. You know, and that would be an incredible blessing and something really cool. But I also can't think about that too much.
Yeah. No, it'd be great. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Ronnie. Anyone
Absolutely.
else?
so. Jeff, I'm Jasima had to go. I'm your co-pilot.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we call on someone?
Well, let's just see if there are any volunteers first. Anyone want to volunteer? Tony? Is he raising his hand?
Yes, yes. Go for
Yeah.
it, Tony.
It's not the deepest share, but it's certainly been interesting for me. My father died when I was 9. He had cancer for 2 years, and that was back in 1961. And the whole challenge of death was really heavy with me for most of my young years, and it and the idea of loss. There was so much grieving and loss in my house. My mother's sense of grief and loss, and I tried to steel myself from it, and I didn't actually feel anything at the time. I blocked it. But then I came to Baba, and among other things, I recognized him immediately, but I was thrilled with a book called The Advancing Stream of Life, which was a lot of discourses and quotes from Baba about death and dying and reincarnation. And it was, yes, of course, made sense. But I did wonder over the years, was my father going to reincarnate? Would I see him again? Would there be, and no matter when I thought maybe there was something, it never really felt real. But in 2005, my grandson was born. And 3 years later, he just over the dinner table or something, he told my daughter, I was Grandpa's daddy. And the instant I heard this, I knew it was true. There was a quality from the moment I saw that kid. I would give him hugs and he would give me hugs. And there was something about those hugs that had a lot behind them. And it didn't matter that I didn't know what it was, but it was like, it's you, you know? And at some point he wanted me to give him, when he was in his teens, give him some piano lessons. And he only came for one. But I was amazed that he was picking out these jazz chords just randomly that he couldn't have possibly known. But my father, who was a gifted guitarist, would have known. And now he's developing a career. He's like, I guess, whatever it'd be from 2019, I guess. He's born in 2005. Anyway, as a rap artist. And the connection is not like picking up from before. It's just he's now living his next thing. Um, but it's kind of nice to know he's here, you know. That's. I mean, I wish I had something bigger to say,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just occasionally when we get to talk, which he's like more in his. But recently, we met by chance somewhere, and we had this wonderful musical conversation, and you can feel. You know, someone once said he gets it from you, and I said no, I got it. Music, he gets it from you, and I said no, I got it from him. So. That's,
Yeah, beautiful, Tony, and reassuring, very reassuring.
yeah.
Anyone else?
Tina,
I feel very abandoned by Baba. I've asked him repeatedly to reconcile me with my son, and he has not responded.
Yeah. I know, and that's,
And my son won't let me see my grandson.
but that, like according to what Tony is saying, they're not somewhere far away.
No, they're in New
Yeah.
York City.
No, what I mean is they're also in this moment, if you can tune into that station.
I can't tune into it.
Yeah.
I'm just very angry.
Yeah. Well, maybe, hopefully in the course of this session, there might be some hope that something that you hear that gives you some hope.
Maybe.
I
I'll
hope
look
so.
for that.
Yeah.
I'll listen for that.
Richard.
You know, my screen, my top line of people is cut off a bit. Is there any reason? I don't know why that
Can
should
you
be
go
the
up,
case.
can you go up to view and just hit gallery again?
Okay.
I mean, I'm a big when in
Oh, it
doubt.
worked. It worked. God, you're so
We did.
sophisticated.
I have my next career now that I'm retired.
I can see the top of Rich's head now.
He had hair for a
Yeah. Well, Tina kind of sparked an idea in my head. I've been aware of this for quite a while now, but I had a very tumultuous life, and not so much a tumultuous lifestyle, just I think I was born into this incarnation with a lot of karmic burden and griefs. But what that does to your parents, if you're close, is it creates a lot of trauma for them. And I think I did that. And whether it was inadvertent, it wasn't so much deliberate. It was just, you know, the Jungian shadow, whatever you want to call it, blah, 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 but dysfunction in general. But so now they're both gone. And I have a picture of them here that I took of them on the wall. But what I've realized is that when I think of Baba, I put them into that sort of meditation on Baba. But I have it's not, you might call it a prayer. It's not meant to be sort of a prayer. It's that I owe them a great deal. And the only way I can really repay them is encourage them to come to Baba. 100%. And they both have ties to Baba somehow. They helped me get to India and in and around New York long ago and different things, and helped me a lot in my life. And there were other people. There was a Baba lover in Denver who was really, really helpful to me, like a brother, really brother. And at some point, he had to sort of let me go, just cut me loose. It was a necessary thing, but it forced me into making new decisions about where I was headed with my life. But so now the same thing has happened. It's like, I am so grateful for what he did and his family did for me that I don't know what you call it. I don't like to call it a prayer. I'm not praying for a new Maserati for them in their next life. That's not what I'm after. I'm just doing Baba, period. Just Baba and them, and that's it. And it's sort of weird, but so as a consequence, I want to make a very specific example of this. This kind of energy is really important, and I think a lot of people are aware of it. It's pretty common in the Christian world, I think. But so I go to my ophthalmologist, and at one point a couple of years ago, I think he's in a religion that's very structured, but he's a really nice guy, really great guy, and he's got 3 daughters and a happy wife, and he's very organized, very successful, and very good. But his oldest daughter is probably rebelling a little bit. I'm just kind of guessing, but he gave me her name, which was Grace. So I started thinking about Grace, and I started thinking, come on, Grace, you can do whatever you need to do. Just, okay, Grace, just putting her into my thoughts with Baba, right? So this isn't convoluted. So I've been doing this for a long time, for a couple of years. So then I go to a different doctor, a otolaryngologist. Sorry, man, I had to work on that one for about 2 days. And anyway, ears, nose, and throat. Okay, so it turns out that the woman who greets me to take me in, this young, wonderful, she has this magnificent, pure auburn hair. I just couldn't, you never see auburn hair. What do you say? I was talking to her, and that was all nice. And so then I returned for my second appointment. And again, it's her. And it's like, she's just so nice. And we have this wonderful conversation. And believe it or not, I told her all about my version of God, and, and there's Meher Baba and blah, 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 blah. And she is so nice and accommodating. Anyway, so then she says, and my name is Gracie. And it's like, it just hit me that all of that energy that I sent out to Grace, for Dr. Carter's daughter, came right back in this wonderful little, like, communion, this union with this beautiful young woman. I mean, I can't explain it on any other terms than just comes back to you, I guess. But so that's my version of those who are no longer here or no longer in your life, or if you feel a debt, like I do, to people, certain people. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich.
Bob Yeager.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all. My wife, Jerry, died 3 years and a few months ago. And oddly enough, today, I use Windows, and it pops up photographs occasionally. Here are your memories from this date. And so one of the photos from today was my dear wife, Jerry, with my little grandson, Forrest, when he was just a toddler. Just a lovely, lovely picture. Well, of course, it touched my heart. I can't say it made me. It didn't bring the grief back, but it did bring a twinge of sadness and also a twinge of joy. Where do I go with this? Jerry and I had 28 just wonderful years together. We were both divorced, and both of us were just done with marriage, we thought, until Baba put us together. And Jerry had 2 kids, and I had 2 kids, and we raised them together, and it was quite wonderful. And I'm still my stepdaughter, my daughter. We talk every night on the phone. She came into town a couple of nights ago and took me to a Rockies baseball game. It was quite wonderful. And my stepson died a couple of years ago. He had a lot of difficulty, but when Jerry died, we both knew, she knew and I knew, that she was really getting close. She had been on oxygen 24/7 for a number of years. And for a while, she had one of those little portable tanks she could use, and we'd go here and there. We'd go for drives and, go shopping and things. But it got to the point where she couldn't leave home, and then it got to the point where she couldn't even really leave her bed very much. When the electricity would go off and the concentrator would quit, I had to make sure that there were plenty of compressed oxygen tanks to keep her going until I could get the electricity back. So there was a lot to take care of, and I was just very involved with that. But it was fine. I mean, we still had each other's company. We were both there, and we would read together when we'd watch television together, and we'd say the prayers, the three prayers together every night. And finally, it got to the point where we knew something was changing, because Jerry couldn't even, she'd say things that didn't make too much sense. So I knew that the oxygen doesn't, her lungs were, she had COPD, and her lungs were just kind of giving up. And our daughter was supposed to come a week before, and she couldn't make it. She came the next week. And that was an absolute gift from Baba, because my daughter and my granddaughter were here when Jerry died. And we were all able to sit with her. I held her hand, I repeated Baba's name, and she would make some sounds a little bit, didn't seem terribly, and I don't think she was in pain, but finally she just left. And my granddaughter took her pulse and wrote down the real time, and then the folks from the cremation service came and picked her up, and we had at-home hospice care for a number of years. So we had a doctor that visited once a month, and a helper that came once a week, and just absolutely lovely people. But mostly it just felt like it was just kind of Jerry and I just being together the way we were supposed to be together. So when she passed, this is sort of getting on to the topic of grief. When Jerry passed, I actually felt a little bit of relief, because she wasn't suffering anymore. She wasn't out of breath. She wasn't falling down anymore. She'd gotten to the place where she really couldn't even walk. I'd have to help her from the hospital bed to the little kind of portable commode we had. And she fell a couple of times. That was really worrisome, and didn't break anything. I had to call 911 once, just because she had fallen and I couldn't help her get up. So they had to send the lift service people to come and help her up. So things like that were going on all the time. And I'd go out for a walk in the neighborhood, but I'd walk around the same 2 blocks over and over and over again, because if she called me, I'd have to come right away. So when she did pass, I did feel some relief for her, and I remembered Baba all the time, but I was feeling some serious grief, and that was so mixed up with, Jeff told me that quote that's in his letter. I saw Jeff, I don't know, a number of months after Jerry passed. I wound up at the center with some friends, and Jeff told me that quote about grief is love with no place to go, which really made a lot of sense to me. I could really feel that. It's like, what, it wasn't, it was love for my dear wife that had no place to go. And it was also a feeling of utter uselessness on my part. Well, what do I do now? What am I good for? And I had read that was part of this grief process, but to actually experience that, and then that metamorphosed into a feeling absolutely at sea. I mean, I would walk outside into this neighborhood that I've lived in since I don't know, 1980. And everything would feel absolutely alien. Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? What is going on? I swear, without Baba, I cannot imagine how I would have dealt with this. Because remembering Baba over and over and over and asking for his help is what got me through. And at this point, it's been 3 years. And, you know, I see these pictures and I'll go into places where Jerry and I used to visit or go out to dinner or something. And I'll remember them with fondness and with love. And so things have really gotten better. They've really changed. But it was not easy. And without Baba, I have no idea what I would have done. I mean, I felt lost enough with him. Without him, I can't imagine what I would have done or where I would have gone or how I would have wound up. But yeah, okay. I can't think of anything else to add right now, but it's a process. And everything I read told me that it takes 3 to 5 years. Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. But to actually experience that and to actually feel the emotions that are being described in books about grief and loss. I mean, they were helpful, but Baba was absolutely the most help of all. So, Jay Baba.
Beautifully. Bob, that was very touching and beautiful. Wow.
Very
I
lovely.
know. What a great loss.
Is this Peter Goodman?
It is. Good evening, and I'm with my dog Rumi. He doesn't want to be on camera, so he's not really a camera dog, especially at night. So I want to respect his wishes. But I've been lucky enough, like, not to really feel loss, as in like deaths from close friends or family in my life. But I've had other loss, such as like close friends moving away. And this was actually right around COVID, when I made also a big change and became a staff member on the center and gave up a job I was at for over 10 years. And I had 3 different really close friends move away sort of far distances. And then one of the reasons I started the job on center was because the guests from all over the world come, and just to make connections with people and meet new people. And it just, when people stay in cabins, it adds more energy, and you can really feel the love. And of course, with COVID, the whole center shut down really tight, like for reasons, of course, and health, and no one knew what it was. And to me, it was just really hard. Like we couldn't even work in teams or with people, and it was just an experience, just cleaning these empty cabins alone, and just, it was an interesting time. But like, I really, really, like, it just mentally felt like a hard time for me. And I really just had to turn to Baba, and just, there were days where I just like cried so much, and like I poured everything out to Baba. And it took a while, but finally I realized that like he was with me there through it all. And that helped me so much, just like remembering Baba, and just and really knowing that he was with me. Like one day that year, I remember seeing his face on from the shadows of leaves in a tree right outside the compound of his house, and that like was a sign. And that day meant so much to me, just seeing his face in the tree. And that whole year was just a process. And but then once the center opened up and people were even allowed to day visit, it felt so much more like normal. And then once people got to stay on the center in the fall of 2021, it felt just so amazing. It just felt, and now things are so back to normal, and I'm just so grateful. And I'm not trying to take anything for granted, but Baba definitely helped me through those times. They were really tough. Jai Baba.
Yeah, beautiful, Peter. Wow. I know that was an era on the center.
Yes, it was definitely
A no man's, only God's land. Any
We've got Tony.
Yeah, I was wary to share something really more tender and personal, but what the heck. I shared something at Margie's last Thursday night thing, I guess a week or so ago. And it was about my relationship with my daughter, Clara, my grandson's mother. And someone here in this group, not here right now, had for some time remembered me and my family, and particularly my relationship with Clara in Baba's Samadhi. And there was quite a transformation. It was a wonderful thing. And we had been alienated for well over 2 years. And on Father's Day, she came over, and then she came 2 months later for my birthday. But in recent times, we haven't talked much. And she works a lot, but I've been missing her, and I've been feeling, is it going back to the way it was? And I shared in Margie's group about, Arnavaz saying, the thing was, she, from the moment she was born, she was so close to Baba. She was closer to Baba than I was. She knew things. She understood, especially up to age 3 and 4. I won't tell the stories. There are so many. And when she went into her teens, she reached a point where she pushed Baba away. And I was always, it was a sad thing for me. And I'm sharing it in the group last week, and remembering that Arnavaz said to me that, that's none of your business. It's between her and Baba. And I know that. But a week or so ago, I was thinking about that, and I remembered this, what I call the Sanskara prayer, that someone was, a Baba lover was in India. I've shared it here before, and he had this prayer come to him. And when I heard about it, I adapted it a bit. But the prayer is for situations where you just like, you don't know what's wrong, and you can't change it, you can't fix it, you're totally at sea with it. What he said was, Baba, please remove these sanskaras from my mind and transform them in your universal love. And I've adapted a bit to say, Baba, remove these sanskaras from my mind, my heart, my body, because when your body tenses when you've got something going on. I said, and transform them, please, in your infinite universal love. And I found that it resolves those personal, the internal. It's an internal prayer. And it resolves the internal issue, but it sometimes also resolves an external situation. I've seen with Zeke, where sometimes I will then go on, after I've really worked on myself, saying, and Baba, remove those sanskaras that are creating a problem for Zeke. And from her mind and heart and body, and transform them in your universal infinite love. So I decided to say that prayer about all I had stuck in me around my relationship with Clara. And it was wonderful. I felt a certain amount of release, and I said the same prayer for Clara. Well, we were away last week as they were doing the floors here. That's what those boxes are about. And we were upstate New York. And I could never reach her, and I said, I've got to call her right now. She's probably maybe still awake. And we had the most amazing conversation. And I got to share with her all these things that she used to say and do and know about Baba. When she was 3 years old, well, I took her hand to bring her into Baba's Samadhi, and she pushed me back. She said, I want to bow down on my own. And she went and bowed down in the Samadhi. The connection with Baba was, well, she blew my mind less than a week ago. She said, well, I think I probably had a past life relationship with Baba, and that I chose this family so that I would be brought back into that connection. Now, as far as she knows, she respects Baba, she respects Jesus. I wouldn't call her a Baba lover. She's seeking for truth and love. But that was an acknowledgement that we never had before. And she, whatever she said about where she was, I said, I don't care. It's fine with me. But that was a sense of loss that's not there anymore. even though the situation hasn't changed, but something changed in me, which released something in Clara and made it possible for her to be open about certain things. So I like stories that have happy endings. So but this is a good one. This is a good one. I'm great. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wonderful. I remember Clara.
It's a great story and a great update because I've kind of lived through some of this with you.
Mhm.
So thanks. Mazel tov.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's go to Sin. Sin, okay.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm being told my network bandwidth is low. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
So
Okay,
far.
great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My mom is 98 and I've been her primary caretaker for 5 years now, and I had to put her into hospice. She's still in my home, but we've put her in hospice a month ago, and essentially I'm seeing her die a little bit every day, and it's hard. And while I've had friends who've gone through this, and I have so admired the way they have gone through this, and I'm not there. I don't feel that I'm there. I get very mired in the day-to-day little problems of wanting her to drink, wanting her to eat, wanting her to survive, basically. But I was watching a movie. I was watching 3 Incredible Weeks with Baba, and I did it today, and he was talking about that we are not this body, we are not this mind. And he went on to say that deep sleep is, if I understood what he was saying, a bit more representational of who we are. And then he, at a later point, was talking about impressions and how we expend impressions and create more impressions and sanskaras and expend those, and how the impressions get weaker and weaker. And somehow I made that connection in my mind of watching my mother, and this is, I think, true of many people who are dying of essentially old age, that they just sleep more and more and more. And their sleep gets deeper and deeper, so that they're essentially sleeping 12, 18 hours a day. And somehow I just made this quick connection in my mind about watching her sleep, and Baba talking about impressions, and that how perhaps her load has gotten lighter and lighter for this lifetime. And that's what this deep sleep is about, that she's making this transition in this deep sleep. And just having that, quick connection really helped. Just that quick sense of that quick glimpse of the spirit, and perhaps the world of the spirit. And at the same time, because Baba, as we know, is thorough, my job of 30 years is seemingly coming to an end as the city has defunded our section of the city. I work in not-for-profit. And one of my pivotal relationships is transforming. So it is, in fact, a perfect trifecta of loss. And, um, I feel as someone said that I'm really in a state of, I'm really back at the very beginning of who am I, where am I, and Baba is there when I invite him to be there, and the sadness, this is overwhelmingly what I feel right now about every aspect of this. It's just sadness. But the sadness is what impels me to invite Baba into it. And I think that's really all I can say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for
Beautiful.
this meeting
Yeah.
because it is timely for me.
And sometimes, people I've witnessed when they're passing on, they drift over onto the other side, and then they come back to this side, and they go back to the other side, and they're going to a nice place, and it's very gradual back and forth, and yeah. But yeah, no, you remind me what Bob was saying. It's just these things are very hard to go through. And, or even Ronnie was saying that they deepen the heart for sure, but
Jeff, can I ask
yeah,
you a question? Can I ask
yeah,
you a question?
yeah.
I don't know if you were going to share, but how would you look to Baba? I don't know if it's you've lost somebody very close to you, and how you reconciled that with Baba.
Yeah, you mean, I've been fortunate in that the first person I was close with who passed on was Fred Winterfeld. He lived here at the center, and I was one of the people looking after him, long time Baba lover. And I woke up the next day and Fred was still with me. Even though he had passed on, his presence was there, and that was a kind of a surprise to me that he was still here, and that's helped me a lot in the people that have passed on, that where can they go? Kind of like in that quote there, all about Mabel, all she's done is taken off her coat and hat. So that helped me immensely. But then I've had more trouble. Well, I mean, I could share. This is the real grief that I experienced. Not so much with people passing, although my mother, I think, I would say so. But I should say this. Back in 1972, there was used to have his kids going in and out. Back in 1972, I was married, and it was one of the early marriages here in the Baba community, and we were kind of very lighthearted and playful, and she was very devoted to Baba. And then after a year, we went to India, and the last thing that Mara said to us is, always stay together. And, that was the last thing she said to us. And I had this one job, which was just the worst work experience I've ever had. And it was so draining, and I had to wake up at 5 in the morning just to psych myself up to go into this job. And it really kind of drained a lot of the joy and fun out of me. It was just a very tense place. And she kept saying, "You got to quit that job. You got to quit that job." And I was not one to quit something. Stupidly, I was really so young and naive and everything. And after about 2.5 years, one day I woke up and Baba said, to say his name, urgently say his name. And I began saying Baba's name all through the day. And I knew that something major was happening. And at the end of on the third day, she said she was leaving me. And I was just devastated. I was just found myself on my back on the floor in so much grief. And I, if I had really been a loving husband, why would she ever leave me? And I felt horrible about it. And there's somebody there. And but in spite of all this pain that I experienced, and I mean, luckily I had a job. I had to get up and walk around. Otherwise, I would have been just on the floor on my back in pain. But the thing that that I experienced is I found Baba was right here with me. He was so supportive, so loving, so present, that in spite of all this grief and suffering, I remember thinking, God, I would lose 1,000 marriages if just for this intimacy that I had with Baba. And but anyway, after 6 months, I quit that job finally, and I went to India. And I thought, well, after 6 months, that was humiliating too, that this happened in this community in front of everybody. But so after 6 months, I went to India, because I thought, well, maybe that's now in the past and everything. I mean, not so many people are talking about it. But when I got there to India in Bombay, I went to Nargish to stay at her place. And she was the sister of Arnavas, one of the women Mandali. And so I got to her house and opened the door, and she had this very concerned look on her face, and she said, Jeff, we heard the news. And I'm thinking, oh my God. That means if Nargish knows it, all the Mandali know. I thought I would be able to just get there and just kind of hide out a little bit at Mirabad. So anyway, I just really didn't feel like going on. But I felt Baba saying, you got to go, Jeff, go, go, go. So I did, and I went. I got to Mirabad. And then on the first day I was at Mirzad, I was in Mandali Hall. A lot of us were sitting around, and Erich was there. And after the normal kind of chit-chat, Erich looks over at me and he says, Jeff, what's this we hear about you and Louise? And I was on the other side of the hall, and I just I couldn't control myself. I just broke down. And Erich is kind of looking at me. I'm looking at him, and he says, but Jeff, it's all an illusion. And out of me, from a deep place in me, I wound up saying, yes, Erich, it's all an illusion. I didn't know I didn't know I had that knowledge in me. I mean, Baba says it, but I actually. So anyway, I was there. I quit that job, like I said, and I was there for 4 months, and over time I kind of felt a little more healing, and there was Amar Tithi and Baba's birthday and all of that, and a lot of that kind of faded to the background, but I was still in a lot of pain. And on the last day, after 4 months, I went to say goodbye to Erich, and Erich was actually in tears. And I felt that he saw what Baba had done for me and was so touched by that I actually had to comfort Erich and support him, because I had never seen him, in tears before. But anyway, so I came back to here to Myrtle Beach, and I was still in grief. It lasted for about another year. But during that period, Kitty asked me if I wanted to work at the center. And now I was available, because I didn't, I was free, and that freed me up to work at the center, and that was one of the greatest blessings of my life. And you know, and the breakup of my marriage really helped immensely to empathize with so many people who have gone through all sorts of suffering, but especially divorces. And you know, it's not I mean, half of the Baba marriages practically fall apart. So I was able to be there and support them, and I knew the experience very deeply myself. You know, so I say there's the saying, you know, God closes a door, but he opens a window. And in this case, he opened a window looking out on the center, his home in the West. And so I'm very grateful that it all happened. But, and like I say, that quote, you know, break my heart so completely that the whole world falls in. It was, or even like Ronnie said, these things help make us more.
Could you speak up, Jeff? I can barely hear you.
Oh, really? Are the rest of you hearing me?
This is Marion. I can barely hear you also.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's been
I
soft.
can hear you.
oh, that's too bad. Wow.
Right, it's been tough for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh,
I
my
found
God.
it from the
You've been
beginning.
listening up or listening more carefully.
Oh.
Yeah.
I heard you, so maybe it's a something with I
Ah.
heard you.
I heard you
I-
fine.
I heard
I heard
fine.
you
That's
fine,
us in
Jeff.
Australia heard you fine.
You were
Okay.
just softer than
All the
everyone
women,
else. Yeah.
the
I'm
women
done.
heard him. The men did not.
Well, sorry about that. I guess, well, I hope the recording comes out.
Jeff, can you tell the story again, please?
Oh, yeah, let me go. No. It was hard enough to, anyway,
But with more feeling this time.
yeah.
Jeff, can you write that story down and publish that in your book?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Well, okay, maybe so. Maybe I'll write that up some point. But anyway, that's my that was my sojourn into grief. And yeah.
Thank you. We here, like I said, we here in California, we're lucky and heard you. And I actually didn't know that story at all.
Yeah.
Even down to how you got to the center, you know,
Yeah.
for the job. Thank you for your
Yeah,
vulnerability.
sure. Yeah.
All right. We got Tina's hands up. Tina?
I'm taking heart from these messages because he's not dead. He's just distant. So there's hope.
Yeah. Beautiful. And hold that space for him.
Yes.
Eventually, I always say, people go to where the love is.
Yes.
Eventually, they'll be knocking at your door, but if you
I
can
hope you're right, Jeff.
just keep a space of unconditional love, and he has.
I do love him unconditionally.
Yeah. Well, just listen. There'll be a knock at your door.
Thank you for saying
You
that.
know, do the heart meditation from Stuart. You know, the heart meditation where you.
Yeah, that's
That's
valuable.
a good thing to do. Yeah.
I have the meditation on tape.
Yeah, it's helpful, very helpful.
Yes. Thanks for that reminder, Marcia.
Yeah. Let's go back to Richard.
Well, I'm going to keep this story short. I'd love to make it longer, but a part of my relationship with my mother was really difficult for me because I never quite understood it. But without analyzing all that, she was a smoker and she also had oxygen for a long time. And she really made a great effort of taking care of herself with medication and doctors and hospital. And she was in a small community, so she had an RA that was really good for her. But anyway, but that was a long ways from me, a long distance. And I didn't talk to her much. I think my brother did. But so the point of the story is that so I was really busy working a lot. And finally time came around for a visit to Myrtle Beach. So I made all the plans. Everything was super. I was really getting excited. And so then I'm driving this truck up in the mountains. This was Wild Wild West. It was fun. And then my sister calls me, so I answer the phone, and she says, I think our mom's finally going to go. So you better get over here. So that was 540 miles. So I did that. I got right over there. Well, I had a plane reservation out of Denver. So I drove through Denver and then drove another 250 miles. So I had a plane reservation out of Denver for, I think it was it was the day after she died, put it that way. So I get there and we stay up most of the night and then we go to sleep. And she died at 2 a.m. in the morning. And the nurses called us. We were there in the room and all this. And I was thinking of Baba the whole time because I was going to Myrtle Beach and I was really excited about that. So the fortunate thing was I was able to be with her while I was on vacation. And the reason for that is I was going to Myrtle Beach. And this took me a few years to put two and two together, but they had the biggest family funeral or gathering they'd had in years and years and years. Everyone was there. And one of her grandsons called me while I was at Lagoon Cabin. And I mean, not Lagoon Cabin, but the Lantern there. And I was around the lagoon. So I was talking to him and he called me and he very carefully asked me what I was going through. And here I am on the center. So what the picture here I'm getting at is that Baba managed to have my mother die and resolve every single thing for me, because I really probably wouldn't have been happy being around all those people, especially when, I was headed to the center. So we made funeral arrangements. I drove back to Denver, got on the plane, got to the center, and then they had this big reunion. And, but what it amounted to was the detail that had to be organized in all that while I was headed towards the center. And I've never had any difficult feelings at all in terms of my mother's death or passing. I mean, absolutely nothing. It was as if Baba took care of that in the most appropriate way, what possible for me and probably, for the family as well. But I have to tell that story because it's not that I didn't like my mother, but I had, I think, a real connection with her, and she'd been like a mentor to me all through childhood. And but the real issue in all that is just Baba. I mean, the way he put that together was phenomenal. And then I could end up at home, because home is on the center for me. That's home. And so I was at home when my mother, was cremated and put in the ground and all that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. I know coming here when your close ones are near the end, you can be very close to them, even if they're 3,000 miles away. Sometimes people have been on the center when they've heard their parents die, and this is one of the places to be where you can be very inwardly very close to them and give them a good send-off, so to speak.
Well, let's go to Rainey.
Hi again. I wanted to add, because I feel like, sorry, my cat just did something. I wanted to share, because I really appreciated how honestly you shared, Jeff, about the grief you experienced. Because I feel like when I shared earlier, I didn't necessarily share that or all the parts that were tremendously difficult about it and the sadness. And I wanted to include that certainly has been a part of my experience, and that but this other side of that is how that relationship, and as you said, Jeff, like really strengthens or maybe like increases like the presence of Barbara in your life, because there is, you know, there's no one else to turn to, or at least, you know, and not to say that I don't have like so many loved ones who are wonderful and caring. I certainly do, but grief has been an experience for me that like that like there wasn't anybody else who I could really turn to, and it was just you know, seeking Barbara and like really bringing Barbara into absolutely everything that I do, because they're, you know, just doing it, laundry was difficult, making dinner, you know, finding the motivation to wake up, and like just from like a physiological point of view, like I can understand death, but my body and my emotions are still going through what they're going through. And so, yeah, like, you know, bringing Barbara into everything that I'm doing was what was really helpful with that. And it's only been like a year and a bit, so it still comes and goes. But another thing is that like there would be no way for me to have known that like the passing of my dad within a year would coincide with me, you know, becoming pregnant with, you know, my first child. And like we just have no idea, and I just would not have been the same person if I hadn't experienced that death. To be bringing a baby into the world, like I would have been a really different person. So it's like this incredible blessing and an incredible heartbreak as well, but the best kind that allows for the greatest gifts to, you know, reveal themselves. And then one other thing I wanted to say, because I hear Tina sharing about her son, and that you know, not being in touch with him and how painful that is. I've been through periods of time where I've had distance from family, or from like, you know, people that I deeply, deeply love, but I've had to have periods of distance from them. And I would always hold in my heart, like, or as much as I could, love towards them. And, you know, I knew that it was painful for the other person, that we weren't in relationship at that time. But it wasn't time as well. I didn't feel like for us to be in relationship. So, and those relationships have changed, and we have come back together. And, you know, united in love in a way that just wasn't possible before. So I hold out hope for you, Tina, in that too.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, there's a time when it all works. But yeah, I know when I was in grief, I was so much in grief that the only person, no one could meet me there. I'm not that I, you know, I was expecting it, but Baba was able to meet me there. That's one of the things that you can experience in that depth. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Emmy.
I really love what you just said, Jeff. I was in so much grief that no one could meet me there, but Baba was able to meet you there. There's a couple of things I would love to share. One is a reading that actually Anthony Cortez often mentions.
Stop it. Stop it. I'm sorry, talking to my cat.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Emmy. Yeah.
So there's a reading that Anthony mentions that I can read. And then there's a poem that I would like to read also. But the reading is Herawan wrote a very heart-rending letter to Baba. In it, he expressed his concern that perhaps he had failed in his duty to provide the best medical treatment for his very dear wife, a soul that had lovingly surrendered to Baba. He was often tormented by remorse at the thought that she had died a premature death because of his negligence. Baba, in an answer, dictated several points to Kishan Singh to be conveyed in a letter. In his consoling reply, Baba assured Herawan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing these names wrong, that there was no such thing as a premature death. No amount of medical assistance or neglect could alter the divinely ordained moment of one's coming to Baba. Harjiwan's wife was destined to come to Baba on that day, so there was no need for Harjiwan to worry. Rather, he should, it's hard to read the last line about he should feel happy at her return to him, the eternal life. I'm really resonating with a lot of what's being shared tonight and really appreciating the authenticity and rawness and vulnerability of some of the emotions that come up in different grief experiences. So I'm going to read this poem. That's my favorite poem about grief. It's called When Great Trees Fall by Dr. Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, and sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly, see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of cold, dark caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed.
Beautiful. Wow. Maya Angelou. Yeah. Wow.
Wow, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Great. I knew there was something in there. My better half wants to share.
So before I realized I was with Baba, I helped a lot of people go to him. And when I was 29, I decided to move to California. Yeah, from Massachusetts. And the day before I was to leave, my father had some things to do and he was coming home and he never came home. And so I my mother and I were pretty frantic, and I started calling hospitals, and I found him in the city hospital, and they were trying to reach us. My dad was a piece of work. His license didn't have the right address on it. They were trying to find us, and he was just, in Yiddish, you'd say a kackenfall. He couldn't get around to taking care of certain things, but he was the kindest, he was just a wonderful, loving human who had a hard time taking care of business. Anyway, so I find him in this hospital, and my mother and my sister and I meet there, and he had borrowed $1,000 from this man that he did business with to give my mother, because she was coming cross country with me, so that we would have money in our pocket. And the man, when he saw my father go over the steering wheel, he told the people in the ambulance that he knows that there's $1,000 in that man's pocket, and to make sure it gets into the safe, kind of thing. So we get to the hospital, and my they've already taped his eyes and everything, but I went in to see him. My sister and my mother couldn't do it. And I thought, how am I going to start a brand new life? How am I going to leave my mother? She had been sickly since I was 5 years old, and now I was leaving her with my dad. I was leaving both of them, but now how could I go? And, people came to me and they said that you had this plan, and if you don't go, it's not good. You have to follow through and do what you feel you need to do. So we went like a week later. We crossed country by car. She came with, and I think just recently I have really released, and I mean, I'm 71, so it took a wicked long time, but I think I finally let go of the sorrow and realized that he couldn't handle life anymore. He was just he just couldn't do it. And he needed an out, and Bubba gave him one. And I was able to make peace with it. Like, I never thought he was leaving me, and I never took the blame for any of it, but I did know that he didn't support me in leaving. And that was really, really difficult. And so, but these passages are just amazing. I think for me now, knowing that Bubba's on the other side to receive my loved ones is a real gift to everybody who loves him. And people have to come and go. It's part of the process. And you figure it out. You just figure it out one way or the other. And I mean, I felt lost when my kid moved, east to go to school and then moved there for good. I felt a loss, but at the same time, I got what was happening, and the separation was healthy for us. For her to separate two moms is an intense thing, So she got to be separate. She got to grow in ways that we were always taking care of her because we couldn't help ourselves. So I don't know, loss to me is an incredible lesson. It's painful, but a lot of what we learn as we go through life is incredibly painful, and we come out the other side. And now that I have Bubba, he holds my hand, and it's just, I don't know, even the bad stuff isn't that bad anymore as far as I'm concerned. So I just thought I would share that.
And I'm gonna jump in. When one of the things that is so profound for me with my connection with Baba and my connection with people on Baba Zoom is how we help each other work with Baba to help navigate through our lives. And I have, as many of you have, known people who we met on Baba Zoom pass. And the one thing that I have seen, at least with 3 of them that I can come up right top of mind, is how they had surrendered so much to Baba that their passing was so peaceful and so loving, their acceptance, that I don't want to put words in their mouths, but the way I interpreted it was that their acceptance that they were going to Baba, and that, like the story when someone said, Baba said there are no premature deaths, is so profound to me. And I thank you all for sharing, because I know that there's loss here in this group of people that has been very, very profound. And my heart goes out to myself and to each one of you. Jai Baba.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, they think, oh yeah, if I'd done more of the medical thing, or if I'd taken better care of it, it wouldn't have happened. Their life could have been extended and everything. All of that is just kind of imagination. And it's like, yeah, if I had just eaten better and everything, I wouldn't have gotten this disease and everything. So you can take the blame out of it, but with Baba's statement there.
Let's go to Tony.
Yeah, thank you. I used to be known here for being very open and transparent, and I'm realizing with this subject I've been not, and I do want to. So I mentioned my father dying when I was 9, and my mother's grief was enormous, and all the adults would say, now you have to be the man of the house and look after your mother and your little brother. And her grief was so great that I just shut down, and I never experienced that grief. I did well at school, but it was locked inside. I never wept when my father died, never. And I don't remember ever weeping at all until, that was 1961, until 1993. I had been in Hungary, and I was in Europe for a UN meeting, and I went to Hungary for a week for a Don Stevens meeting. And in it, he talked about surrendering his finances and his love life to Baba. His sex life is what he said, actually. But when I got back to New York, I had separated from Clara's mother, and I wanted a relationship, but I was pushing it away, and I had a man-to-God man talk, and I said, you know what's in my heart, you know what I need, you pick her, no conditions. And there's a whole story, and I won't say, but he created a relationship, and it was dazzling until it wasn't. And when it started becoming problematic, I would talk to Baba out loud in the car driving to work, and I would say, maybe I should get out of this now, and he would say, love her more. And it was really not in words, but it was really clear. He was saying, and every time something would get worse, I'd have a dream of a steamroller coming towards me, and I'd say, Baba, I got to get out of this now. He'd say, love her more. Well, the fact is, it was what I was expecting, and when it blew up, but before it blew up, sorry, there was a night, it was still good, I would say, and it was an intimate moment, and this woman put her hand just behind my neck right here. And it was like something shot down to the base of my spine. I just started sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and I could not stop. It went on for like 20 minutes, half an hour. In retrospect, and although it was intense, I didn't want it to stop, because for the first time in my life, all of those feelings that had been locked away for 40 years or so were like, of course, that might have contributed to ending the relationship, because I think she thought that this fellow's too much. But when it did blow up, again, that now I had feelings. Now I was able to, my feelings were coming whether I liked them or not. And everything inside of me was like splattered on the floor. So the relationship ended, there was no further contact. But for the next 3 or 4 years, I had to pick up all of those pieces of me that had been locked away for decades and find out who I was, to put it all together. And the irony of it, not irony, but the purpose that became clear, that's how I was able to connect with Zeke. After 4 years of doing all of that work and becoming myself, because all of those emotions were free to come out, that relationship, and we've been married for 26 years now. But there was one other piece. I've been in a, call it therapy, counseling, mentor relationship for about 10 years or so. Someone I studied with, Ericksonian hypnosis and NLP. And at this period in my life, this is after all that, after I was married to Zeke, I saw a doctor for my voice, and he gave me some medication that was at the time considered a controlled substance in New York, but not in other states. And I took it for quite a while, and it seemed to help with my voice. But it actually was a very dangerous thing. And when I didn't know, he didn't tell me, and when I stopped, I began to have what was like a nervous breakdown. And I was in one of these therapy. I didn't know what it was. I just know I'd start trembling, and I was in one of these sessions, and I'm pounding on my knee to try and control it. And out of the blue, I started sobbing, and heard my like 9-year-old voice saying, "Daddy, I miss you. Daddy, I miss you so much." And all of that it was like the last piece of everything that had been locked up. I had never grieved at my father's death. But suddenly I was there as that 9-year-old, allowing it out. And in both cases, my creativity, my joy in life, my expressiveness with other people improved dramatically. But it took these really overwhelming experiences, and Baba perfectly timing to draw it all out. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the real story.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got,
It's kind of late. Maybe have Cliff be the last person.
yeah.
Cliff,
Yes.
you're up.
Yes, hello. What a happy meeting. Are they all like this? Anyway, and my wife Irene, my darling wife Irene, passed away a little bit more than a year ago. And extremely hard for me. I mean, I'm basically a mess. But Irene left some, wonderful guidelines for me, and of course, Baba did also. But in fact, speaking of Mayor Baba, let me read a quote of his. If you don't want to be old before your time, be cheerful in deed and word and in appearance. Most of all in appearance. It is a divine art to look cheerful. It helps others. So it's very hard, but I try not to show it and dwell in it, because I know that Baba's got me. He's got me by the fingernails. But I did want to share a couple of things Irene said to me and other people as well. And that was to be grateful for your life and to find joy every day. And she certainly lived that way. And I have a lot of regrets. I guess the main message that I have for people today is that my big regret is that if I told Irene I loved her, a dozen times a day, I wish I had told her 3 dozen times. If you love someone, tell them, because when they're gone, you're gonna miss having them there to be able to say what you feel. Tell people you love them. Jai Baba.
Yeah, it was so beautiful to see Irene on these sessions,
Mhm.
She looked very peaceful in spite of all that she went through.
It is so nice to see Shanti in the background. Boy, does she love that doggy. And you, Cliff.
It's my sole responsibility in life is to take care of that dog. That was my one task that she gave me.
And the sun is too.
So good seeing you all.
Yeah, thanks, Cliff.
Good to see you,
Okay.
Cliff.
Anyone? Oh, we got Paula here. Paula has suffered the passing of quite a few in her life.
Well, I might be in denial. It's almost 19 years since my husband died. And then it's 4 years this Friday that my son died. And without Baba, I wouldn't be here. But okay, so where I'm at is different things that Baba said, along the way that I've been finding. And one of them is somebody said to him, Baba, where do people go when they die? And Baba said, nowhere. They don't go anywhere. And somebody said to me, I'm sorry for your loss. And I said, what loss? Nobody's lost. I'm not lost. My son's not lost. My son's not lost. They're with Baba. So what it is, it's hard. I mean, it doesn't, well, maybe I don't know if it gets easier or not. It goes up and down and all around, and it's just a journey. But I don't know. It's like pivoting. What I'm trying to look for is, well, first of all, I'm alone now. And because my other son's married and he's off, and that's a really big difference. But my life is with Baba, and it's just trying to focus on him and live with him, which is actually what I always wanted. And that they're here, that they're not gone. And it's work. It's really work. It's like Baba's not gone either. Baba's here, and I'm trying to get in my blood and in my bones that I live in my house with Mayor Baba and Mira. And, I was on a walk the other day, and it was like, I felt like I was really lonely. And I thought, wait a minute, Baba's walking with me. Mira's here, Meru, everybody I love, they're just here walking with me. So it's like, that's what I do and try to hang on to, because Baba says nobody really goes anywhere. How could they? We're all one and we're all in him. But boy, it's a lot of work for us because we do miss him on the gross plane. But they also have subtle and mental bodies just like we do. And we're not gross beings. We have gross bodies, but we're spiritual beings. And in that way, when your heart's connected with somebody, that is the golden thread, and it never gets broken. So that's kind of
Beautiful.
how
Yeah.
I adjust.
Yeah. No, and you remain whole when they're in you and rather than apart from you. No, lovely. That's what I strive to do myself. Hey, so we better. It's
I
getting a
just
little bit
wanted to
late.
say that I feel better.
Good.
And I suggest a part 2
Yeah, because
on
there are a
grief.
great many people that haven't even spoken here, and I know that so many have lost dear ones, or they've lost loves, or people have
Yes.
moved away.
I
And
want to hear it all. I want to hear it all.
sometime we'll do that. Wow.
Some people would like to share but not be recorded.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I'm one of them. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you can request that the reporting be paused.
Next time.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a reading here. It might be Rumi. I'm not certain. And then we'll have a few moments of silence. Sit with me in the quiet and know that I do not leave. I am here, all around you, in the whispers of the wind and the sunlight that dances through the trees. I am the warmth that embraces you when you need comfort, and the memories that bring a smile to your face. I am the moments we shared, the laughter we enjoyed, the love we cared. Though you may not see me with your eyes, feel me in your heart, for there is where I live, always and forever. So sit with me in the quiet, and know that I am here watching over you with love and peace. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Thank you for all your sharing. I mean, it's not easy to share some of these things, but it's helpful because we've all have to deal with these things. Sometimes it's going to be in the future, but we may have to say goodbye to so many dear, dear friends, especially like here in this community. So many are
Yes.
of my generation, but
Jai Baba.
we'll all be
Well,
back. We're all
as
back.
I
and
said, I feel better
Yeah. No, we'll
for
keep
the
bumping
sharing.
into each other. We'll keep bumping each other for the next 700 years. Believe me. We'll just look a little different each time.
Yes. I'm going to say goodnight.
Yeah.
Jai
Good.
Baba. Jai
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
Hey,
And just
Baba.
a reminder,
Good
we
night.
do have a session next week.
Yeah. And if you have any suggestions on a topic, I'm always open to the suggestions because I mean, we've already had about 400 of these things. How many, how many topics are there left in this life with Baba? I'm sure it's an infinite number, but. And now Johannes and Sabine can go back to sleep.
Yes, hooray.
We do. We do.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Baba, everyone.
Yeah,
Auf
Good night,
Wiedersehen.
everyone. Thank you, Jeff.
yeah,
Baba.
thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Jai Baba.
Good to see you,
Hey,
Ronnie.
Baba.
Yeah.
Hey,
Good to
Baba.
see you, Sid.
Thank you.
You too, Tony. Jai Baba, everyone.
Hey, Baba.